Good evening and welcome. Tonight we will be going over the history and geography of Bangsamoro in the Philippines. We're starting off here, the island of Mindanao, which is the southernmost of the main islands of the Philippines. Bangsamoro's full name is the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao. That's why we're starting here in Mindanao. And I tried to highlight as much of the region as I best could. It's a little more complicated than this. There's little pockets around there as well, but it's a little tricky, and it's also tricky because this region also includes many of the islands out here in what's known as the Sulu Archipelago. Now, this is very complicated because of something that happened literally 2 days ago when the government of Bangsamoro declared that the Sulu Islands were no longer part of Bangsamoro. So I had already started scripting this episode when this was announced, and thank goodness I didn't do it sooner, because I was supposed to. If you watched my videos, I was supposed to do this place last week. It's almost kismet, it's almost fate that I didn't, because this huge thing happened. So there we go. Everything happens for reasons, right? So we won't be talking about these islands tonight, but we will be talking about the others, the two main ones being Basilan here, except for the city of Isabela. We'll talk about that as well. And then this is the island of Tawi-Tawi. And it has lots of other islands associated with it, including, I believe, Cagayan is part of Tawi-Tawi, or it could be part of Sulu. I'm pretty sure it's Tawi-Tawi. But there's also islands over here. You can see Turtle Island is on the UNESCO tentative list for its undersea life there and turtle preservation, which is wonderful. There's also a big wetlands over here that's on the UNESCO tentative list. It's just south of the capital city of Cotabato City, which we'll talk about a lot in its history. It's where we're going to see the largest mosque in the Philippines. It's pretty cool. I can't wait to show you. But with that out of the way, let's get into the history so we can talk about what exactly is going on here, because it is very long. And I'm going to say now, it is very convoluted and it is very sad. So for many of these sad portions of its history, I'm going to gloss over them. And that is because, one, this is a relaxation channel, and talking about horrific events is not relaxing. And two, we're on YouTube. They have very specific guidelines about things you can and cannot talk about. And just so I'm not trying to toe the line, I'm just going to say it in the most broad and non-specific ways so we don't get demonetized here. This is my full-time job. So anyway, but it is not to diminish what happened. It is not to make less of lives that were lost. It is not to ignore victories on either side. It is simply for those reasons. It is so that you are not laying awake, stressed out, thinking about atrocities. And it's so YouTube can cut me a check. So, with that being said, let's get into the history of this region, and we're going to start down here in Tawi-Tawi, which is one of the oldest inhabited islands in this region of the Pacific. I don't know how to describe it because it's technically, I guess, Southeast Asia, right? But I think Southeast Asia, Indonesia and Malaysia. We're not quite there. Almost. You can see Malaysia's over here. So the first peoples would have lived here sometime between 6,000 and 3,000 BCE There's lots of cool archaeological sites dating from approximately those times. But one of the earliest indigenous peoples in this region would have been the Lumad, who are still around and still living in this region today. And there were many other indigenous groups as well. It's just their name came up more in research, it's always awesome when you still have, the first major settlers in an area that are still around and still doing their thing. It's awesome. You don't hear about that a lot in history. This area would change forever in the year 1380 when Muslim traders arrived here in Tawi-Tawi, and they built the first mosque in the Philippines. Obviously, they brought their religion with them, and that religion spread throughout the southern area here. I believe Brunei, which is literally just right over here, was already swinging. They're still a Muslim kingdom today. But that sparked various other sultanates in the area, predominantly the Sultanate of Sulu, which began in 1457, which encompassed most of these islands and the areas here on what's now Sabah. That's going to be important later, so hold on to that. And also the Sultanate of Maguindanao in 1515, which was mainly along the coastal areas here of Mindanao. It wasn't long after that when the Spanish arrived. The Spanish claimed the Philippines because of the Treaty of Tordesillas, where Portugal and Spain wanted to claim the New World, so a line was drawn on a map. Everything on one side would belong to Spain, everything on the other would belong to Portugal. So the Philippines fell into the Spanish side, so they wanted to go claim these islands. And down here they were met with quite a lot of resistance. These people down here did not want to be conquered, especially by European Catholics. And the Spanish, by this time, knew a thing or two about fighting off Muslims, as they had been fighting off the Moors in the Iberian Peninsula for hundreds of years and were just recently successful in pushing them out of mainland Europe. So when they came here and were met with more resistance from indigenous Muslims, they called them Moors or Moros. And people from this area are still known as Moros today. Bangsamoro means the land of the Moros. The Spanish, however, had a heck of a time trying to subdue these people. They refused to be subdued and fought constantly over who was going to control this land. They fought literally until 1898. And if you know your history, you know why it stopped. But before that, the Spanish were kind of winning. They had managed to force the Sulu Sultanate to sign a peace treaty in 1851. They formally established Cotabato City in 1861. Of course, there were people already living there, but they were like, well, now that we control the area, we can make it into a proper city, right? But it had existed long before that. Just Cotabato, of course, is the Spanish pronunciation of what the people there were already calling this area. But why is 1898 important? Well, the United States declared war on Spain because a ship blew up in Cuba and the Americans blamed Spain for it. We still don't know what happened to that ship. It's a mystery. The Spanish got whooped by the Americans. The war ended very quickly. And in their treaty to figure out what the United States would gain from the war, the United States gained the Philippines. So Spain pulled out of this country that they had irrevocably changed forever. People here spoke Spanish. Many were Catholic, at least not in this area, right? But in the rest of the islands. And the United States came in and said, well, let's sink our claws into this area and see what we can make of it. Which the Filipinos weren't very happy with, and the Americans were like, well, we'll just, instead of controlling it, instead of making it a colony, we'll just let you guys figure out a government and leave you alone, which it would eventually happen, right? But in this area, they were like, well, we've got to, fix up this area because it's all Muslim and stuff. In so many words, again, not making light of it, just trying to sum it up in the most friendly, relaxing way possible. So in 1903, once the Americans had full control of the Philippines, they said, you know what, there's all this empty farmland down here. Why don't all you guys up north come on down and populate this area? And they certainly did. It was the first large migration into this area of Mindanao. And of course, the Americans gave a lot of land to Christians who were moving in. The education system they implemented was very Christian focused, even though, of course, the kids going to these schools were Muslim. Of course, everyone hated that. And a resistance started to spring up to push back against these policies of people's land essentially being parceled away to essentially strangers. That would grind to a halt during World War II. In 1942, the Japanese invaded. But of course, these people weren't going to take that sitting down. They'd been dealing with the Spanish. They'd been dealing with the Americans. They'd been dealing with these other Filipino immigrants. They're definitely not going to deal with the Japanese. So fight back they did. And it was guerrilla fighters that managed to liberate Cotabato from the Japanese in 1945. The Allies, of course, were fighting extensive battles to regain the Philippines. But I thought it was interesting that it was the people here that took back their city. It's very Bangsamoro of them. After the war, more people started to move into this area. The Muslims are feeling more and more underrepresented and honestly ridiculed in a way, being made less of. And it all came to a head on March 18th, 1968. We don't know a lot of details about what happened, but we do know the basics. Essentially, remember Sabah is over here? It was claimed by Malaysia when Malaysia formed itself. And the Philippines government, who this time is being led by Ferdinand Marcos, decided, well, this is traditional, Filipino land. This was part of the Sultanate of Sulu. It should belong to the Philippines. So let's find a way to try to take over this area and claim it back for the Philippines. And they sent soldiers in here to try to infiltrate and eventually try to rise up and reclaim it. One regiment of soldiers from this area, who of course were Muslim and were codenamed the Jabida, were sent here, and something happened. We're not quite sure what exactly went on, but from what I've read, it seems that they realized that they were being sent on a mission that they did not agree with morally. It was probably because they were attacking fellow Muslims, or some sort of moral quandary happened, and this regiment of soldiers essentially mutinied, rose up and said, we're not going to do this. And so the entire squad essentially was massacred by the Philippines military. There was one survivor that some fishermen found out in the water, and fished him out of the ocean and found that he was riddled with bullets. And that was the spark that ignited the conflict down here in Mindanao and this entire Muslim-controlled area. Many groups formed. The main ones that I found were the Moro Islamic Liberation Front, the Moro National Islamic Front. There were many others who try to fight back against the government, saying enough is enough. This is our land, this is our culture, this is our religion. We want it our way. Marcos declared martial law, which really just made things far worse because then the military is attacking these people even more viciously. They're attacking even more viciously back. It became a vicious cycle. I read a number from Al Jazeera, I believe, that around 150,000 people lost their lives during this conflict. And of course, millions were displaced from their homes during this conflict. One of the goals of mainly the Moro National Islamic Front was to establish their own autonomous region within the Philippines. And that was achieved in 1989, the formation of the Autonomous Region of Muslim Mindanao. Many peace talks occurred during the 1990s, the early 2000s. The violence is over, thankfully. Things have been worked out between the government of the Philippines and the many groups that were fighting for their rights here. And there's a full-fledged autonomous government running this region, which is what they wanted. And they're certainly running it. They're passing all kinds of legislation, making sure that everything's fair for everyone. And, things are going as well as expected, I would say. Not fantastic, but very well. In 2019, they officially established the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region of Muslim Mindanao, changing some of the rules. And they required all of the regions within it to vote upon certain things to add to the Constitution, which some areas weren't pleased about. This is when the city of Isabela decided to withdraw. That's why I drew a little box around them to show that they're not part of this region anymore. The Sulu Islands here voted mainly against a lot of the changes, but they were implemented anyway, which is why just 2 days ago the government of Bangsamoro decided to remove them from this autonomous region, which is kind of a shock. I've only found one map so far that's been updated with the change. Everything else you'll see on Google Earth, it still says that these islands are part of it. It'll probably take a while to change, and we'll have to see what happens from there. We'll have to keep an eye on this area and see if that shakeup has any ripple effects in the government here. The fact that they can really pick and choose who's going to be part of the club is a little worrisome. Maybe Sulu will beg to rejoin and, try to re-enter. Maybe they'll rise up in anger. Maybe nothing will happen. We'll have to see what happens, won't we? But anyway, that is the barest bones history of Bangsamoro. I could have gone into far more detail, but many of those details, as you can imagine, are very gruesome and very sad, and I'd prefer not to do that. So why don't we head over to the tablet and see what we can find in this region on Google Earth. Here we are at the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao. We're going to start by zooming out so you can see exactly where we are in the world. The Philippines is located here along this undersea mountain chain that also forms Japan and Taiwan the way down. It's pretty neat, huh? You can see from above the mountains and trenches there that help form the Philippines. And then, of course, over here we have China. Over here's Malaysia and Indonesia. We are in that corner of the world, the Philippine Sea, South China Sea, etc. So as you can see, we're down here in the south of the country. And let's start over here on Mindanao. Of course, here's the capital city of Cotabato. Let's see. I was poking around. Actually, I need someone to explain this to me because I saw this cave, Kutawata Cave. And it says here is it's the only cave system. Can you see? The only cave system in the country, which I don't know if I believe that because I feel like I've heard about a lot of caves in the Philippines. I know there's the Puerto Princesa underwater caves. Are those not cave systems? Like, I'm not sure. Maybe they're just singular caves and this is the only cave system. I do not know. It perplexes me, but cool if true, right? But probably the big sight to see is not even in the city proper. It's over here near the coast, and it is the Grand Mosque of Cotabato, which is so neat. It reminds me of like Aladdin, like it looks like Agrabah, like Princess Jasmine would live here. It is so beautiful. I love the white and gold together. And of course overlooks the ocean. It's a neat little place here. The corner that faces Mecca, most likely. Timaku Hall. Oh, we're going to look at that in a second. Pretend you didn't see that. And Shuiwei there. It's so pretty. I really like the color scheme. It's very regal, isn't it? There's everyone there at the women's hall gathering to pray. This is the largest mosque in the Philippines. This is the one I was mentioning before. Pretty neat. So what was that thing you saw for a split second? I have it tagged up here so I wouldn't lose it. It is right here. And it is this mosque, or I guess a masjid, way down here. And it is in fact the Barbie Dream Mosque. That's what I've been referring to it in my mind as, because it's entirely Barbie pink. And that's amazing. Look at this place. Wow. I want to come here so much and see the pink mosque. Have you ever seen a fully pink mosque before? Incredible. And not just any pink, it's definitely Barbie pink, isn't it? That's a little ominous with the tanks rolling down alongside, but you know, it has a storied history as we have went over already. I guess there's some gold, but pink and gold is such a good combination. Little vendors along the side. You can grab some snacks before you go in to the hot pink mosque. Look at this dome. It's so pretty. I can't get over it. Like, as nice as the Grand Mosque is, how dignified and, you know, all perfectly aligned and everything. I don't know. The hot pink mosque does something for me. This might be my favorite mosque I've ever seen. It's Move Over Janae. This is awesome. Oh, look, she's all dolled up here. This is the best. I'm obsessed. I mean, it's not just... It is the color. If I saw any formal building in that color, I would fall in love with it. Let's be real. It could be like a bathroom, and I'd be like, this is the prettiest bathroom. Let's be real. Alright. What else can we see over here? We do have this huge lake. I should have mentioned it. Lake Lanao. I couldn't find a lot of pictures. I think this one didn't have any pictures. Yeah. I was combing through trying to find some good slideshows so that we can look at this huge lake, but couldn't really find anything that showed some good examples, you know. There is a lack of slideshows here in Bangsamoro, which is devastating because we're in the Philippines, and the Philippines is one of the most beautiful island chains in the world. Down here in the marshes, do we have any slideshows? I forgot to check, to be honest. There's another masjid there. Maybe if I turn on the everything, maybe I will find something. Or maybe if I turn on, it's going to flash blue. Oh, that wasn't so bad. Let's see if there's any street view down here in the marsh. Sorry for the blue. No, it's really bright. Nope. Darn. Well, you'll just have to take my word for it. Yeah. Very large lack of slideshows here, which is unfortunate. Over here, this is Basilan. Has It's a beautiful national park here, but the sight to see is these waterfalls, Pulingon Falls, which is gorgeous, isn't it? This picture, or pictures of these waterfalls, popped up anytime I was trying to Google geographic sites in Bangsamoro. This was always the top one. And you can see why it's absolutely stunning, right? So pretty. And of course, you can go enjoy these waters. That person was swimming in it. Wow. Pretty. Go mountain biking and hiking. Come on. There we go. See the beautiful waterfalls here. Up in the mountains here. And we'll have to look at Isabella City and the Sulu Islands on another day, I suppose. Sorry, guys. I don't make the rules. Down here we see Tawi Tawi. And I think I saw some slideshows around here. I just have to remember what they were. Let's turn off the everything. We don't need to see the high schools. Oh, the high schools are still up, though. Let's see. Oh, here we go. I was looking at these waterfalls. Also very beautiful. A little more fun because you can sit in them and get a little shower. I bet it's very cold water, but I bet it's really humid and hot, so it probably feels really nice. And let's see if we can't find one more thing. Shore protection. There's a cave right there. Oh, how pretty. Aww. It's not a lot of pictures. That's another thing, is that I would be like, oh, this place has pictures, and then we have like 2. What's this cave? Balabok Cave. Ooh. Look at that. This has 20 pictures. Let's take a look. And then we'll go find one more slideshow to close out the video. Oh my. It's like an enchanted cave, all overgrown and mossy. Look at this. Do you think this might be one of the archaeological sites? It's definitely a place that, like our ancient ancestors would leave tools behind. Probably even live in, Let's see. So pretty. They're going on a hike, having a good time. Look how beautiful, in like a haunting way, right? Incredible cave here. So yeah, there are lots of sights to see. I didn't really see anything about tourism, but I'm sure things exist here. Now that oh wow, it's amazing. Now that all of the conflict has pretty much finished, I'm sure it's fairly safe to visit. I don't see why it wouldn't be. Limestone formations explains it. I wish I could zoom in to read more, because it's a really beautiful cave. Look at that. Really beautiful cave. So yeah, I explored these islands. I didn't find anything. Do you think maybe the Turtle Islands will have anything? Do you think? Oh my goodness, look at this. Ha ha ha. Philippines. And up there too. Let's close out. Oh no, oh no, oh no, oh no, no. Devastating. And of course that doesn't have a slideshow. Devastating. This is another island. My camera, there we go. Okay. I'm pretty sure this island is also part of it, right? Mapun Island. Oh yeah, I was looking at this island too. I think this place didn't really have any slideshows either. Let's see. Yeah, just 9 pictures. But it is very pretty. Way out there, way far from the rest of the islands. Looks like just one person on their bike came out to take pictures. Look at the clouds, see there? The reflection of the clouds. Very pretty. Let's find one more slideshow over on Mindanao to end out this video. What can we find? We've got to find something maybe along the coast. I feel like we're more likely to find a place there, aren't we? Or something. Mount Minindar. Here we go. Let's close out the video here. So thank you so much for watching. If you learned something during this video, give this video a thumbs up and let me know what it was down in the comments, okay? And if you enjoyed this style of content, please consider subscribing. This was our first video in the series in the Philippines. We're going to another new country, a first video in that country, and it's going to be Slovakia. So be sure to subscribe so you won't miss out on Slovakia. I hope that you found this video to be relaxing and educational. What a fun hike. And I hope that you have a good